Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to another fantastic day of online learning. So today's class involves kicking off by reviewing task 11 on page 19 of the workbook, which was set yesterday. So if you can get your answers out from yesterday's work and self-assess against the following. So Pedro's Pizzas claims that its pizzas will make your day. No, this is puffery, so it would not be considered an substantiated representation, because in advertising, consumers expect some exaggeration, and if in fact Pedro's Pizzas did not make your day, then you could not claim that they breached the Fair Trading Act. Sione Sandwich Bar claims that its sandwiches will cure heart disease. Yes, we would consider this an unsubstantiated representation unless it was backed up by scientific research, because it's a very specific claim to cure heart disease, and heart disease treatment in many cases requires medications and medical procedures. Although, of course, healthy eating sandwiches do help prevent heart disease, in this case we would expect that yes, Sione Sandwich Bar would be in breach of the Fair Trading Act. Blue Ball Energy Drinks claims that its drinks will give you horns. No, this is puffery. A reasonable consumer would not expect this claim to be true, that the drinks would give you horns. So we would not expect that this is an unsubstantiated representation. Ted's Natural Medicines claims that its Wonder Powder can remove wrinkles, heal bones, and regrow hair by reversing the aging of your DNA. Yes, we would expect that this is an unsubstantiated representation, because it's a very specific claim that your DNA is reversed by consuming the Wonder Powder and the stated effects. So the business would need credible scientific research to support such a claim, and it's very doubtful such research exists. So, gentlemen, we're going to move into considering false or misleading representations. So, a business must not make a claim or representation that is false or misleading about its products. So, this representation can be created by an impression from pictures. So, perhaps you had a picture of your product next to another product or feature in society, and the positioning of the pictures created an impression that the product was far bigger than it actually was in real life. Then that could be considered a misleading representation over the size of the product. Advertisements obviously can contain misleading representations in both the imagery and the text, or what is said in the advertisements. Promotional material, which sort of pertains to your flyers and your brochures, your radio advertisements, anything which is untrue or misleads customers over the product will absolutely fall into this basket of a misleading representation. So these representations that are false are a worry when they are made about what kind of product it is, the standard or quality of the product, how much of the product there is, the quantity, its style, so the aesthetics of the product, what model it is. So if it's one of the latest models of a product, or maybe it's one of the dusty old originals, or whether or not the product is going to be installed or produced or supplied by someone who has a particular qualification or skill. So an example here is advertising that a couch is made out of kangaroo leather, when in fact it is made from horse leather. If a business was advertising or using imagery that gives the impression that the couch was made out of kangaroo leather, when in fact it is made from horse leather, that's absolutely a misleading representation about the couch. Misleading representation can also be about claiming that a particular person most cases, a celebrity or a famous or credible, reputable, respected person uses the product when in fact they don't. That can also be considered a misleading representation. So we've got an untrue claim that Taika Waititi has a certain brand of couch in his living room. If he doesn't, then that would be, of course, a misleading representation. And we consider this in marketing unit 7 and 8, that having a celebrity endorsement is incredibly valuable for promoting your product. So falsely claiming that a celebrity is using a product means that the business is getting a benefit from a celebrity endorsement, which they're not actually entitled to because the celebrity is not endorsing their product. Then further misleading representation can be about where the product or the raw materials or ingredients that form the product, whereabouts those are from. So claiming that goods are made in New Zealand when in fact they're made in Australia would be a misleading representation. And people very much care about where goods are produced. Not everyone, but certainly some people do. And that can be for a variety of reasons. Some countries or regions around the world have a very strong reputation for producing certain goods and services, and that comes about from years and years of excellent production in those regions or countries. And for a company to try and piggyback off that fine reputation that's deserved elsewhere would be unfair. So an example would be champagne, so sparkling wine in the Champagne region in France. It would be grossly unfair if a New Zealand producer of sparkling wine was to start marketing their product as being made in Champagne in France, and it would be particularly unfair for the champagne producers of fine wine because they deserve the reputation, and it would be unfair for consumers if they were to purchase a sparkling wine product and then only sadly to find out that it was produced in Marlborough, New Zealand, as opposed to Champagne. Same thing could be said about New Zealand products, of course. We are globally renowned for the quality of our primary products and our horticultural products, and of course some of our tech products as well. And it would be very upsetting for our New Zealand businesses if we were to have foreign nations claiming that their goods originated in New Zealand when in fact they did not. False or misleading representations can also include misleading consumers about the price of a good. So in advertising a good's price, producers cannot lie. So claiming that a good was $200, but now it's $150, when in fact the original price is $150, that's misleading consumers. It's misleading consumers about there being a discount that's applied to the current price when in fact there isn't. So this misleads the consumers into thinking that they have got an unusually good deal, and perhaps they should seize on the good deal and purchase the product now because the sale price, the promotional pricing might change shortly, and that will of course advantage our businesses, but give our consumers unfair information, so incorrect information that is unfair in how it affects their decisions. Not disclosing hidden or additional costs, of course, can be misleading representation, and obvious ones here around your postage and packaging on internet orders, but it could also be around installation costs of a product. So if you purchase a product that the company, the supplier, states that they will install in your home, and then upon arrival of the business and their installer, they start to inform you of a very significant installation cost, you would be incredibly upset. So firms have to be very upfront about the costs involved with using their products. A false or misleading representation about the need for goods and services. So this is a claim from the business that the consumer must buy their good or else there will be consequences. So an example could be an accountancy firm claiming that all taxpayers need to hire an accountant so that they can submit their tax return. This, of course, would increase the demand for accountants, but it's based on a false representation that the law requires an accountant to submit a tax return. Another example could be going to the mechanics, get your car checked over, and then you find yourself confronted with a whole lot of needs to fix up your vehicle. And if the mechanic had falsified some of those needs to replace various parts in your car, that would be, of course, misleading representations. And the law prevents this because it would be incredibly expensive for customers if they felt that they needed to keep purchasing a whole range of products. And of course, it gives those businesses an unfair advantage of making sales when customers don't actually need the product. A false or misleading representation about the effect of a warranty or guarantee under the Consumer Guarantees Act. So if a business claims that they have no responsibilities for their products, when in fact the Consumer Guarantees Act applies, that would be a misleading representation. Or if they are making claims about the effect of a warranty that the business is providing themselves, potentially to discourage consumers from actually calling on the rights that they have under the warranty, then that would be a misleading representation because it's disadvantaging consumers and discouraging them from calling on the rights that they legally are entitled to. And finally here, a false representation can be created by leaving out important information. So this is similar to what we encountered earlier on with Mr. Con and his motel. So not informing customers that a product only performs in the way that they promote if used in certain conditions or if used with another product to optimize its performance, then that would be a false or misleading representation, because by leaving out that critical piece of information that explains why the product is performing so well, consumers get the false impression that the product would perform the same in normal conditions without that critical piece of information that explains the highly effective performance. So, gentlemen, putting into place some of our learnings on false and misleading representations, you are tasked with completing task 12 on page 20 of the workbook. Any questions or issues, please do contact your class teacher on this. Kia kaha.